Hello everyone, welcome to the Ahdurin region. I am your host Ahdurin himself, and welcome back to another Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky challenge. That's right, we're doing a different one this time. It's not Blue Rescue Team again and again and again. Instead, we're going to one of my favorite games of all time, a challenge game that I've done a couple of times, and we're using a special team in the process. So while the credits play, let's talk about it. The team I'm using in question is a famous team. It's a team that's gone out of their way to not really explore anything. It's Team Slacker. That's right, Team Slacker, consisting of a Slackoth and a Slowpoke, together have decided to explore the abyss of nothing. So fun fact, this game idea actually came from Pokemon Sleep, and it sort of inspired the idea of using a sleeping team in Pokemon, which I'm very excited for. Before we begin, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things you ought to do when supporting a YouTube channel. And if you want to check out other challenge videos, you can do so, available in the description and probably in the card. Also, fun little thing I want to plug right now, memberships are now active on this channel. Members are able to do different things regarding the challenges themselves, get special rewards, emotes, little benefits here and there. So if you would like to and are able to, please, I would love your support with memberships. Again, don't have to, but I would love the support all the same. Now, without further ado, let us begin the actual challenge itself, the Team Sleep Challenge. So using the power of game modification, I changed the starter Pokemon to pick between one of the two members of Team Slacker. Now, there is no leader of the team as far as I can tell, so I decided to go with Slackoth because it would be the more difficult of the two. Comparing Slowpoke, a Pokemon with multiple type advantages and the ability to do typeful moves, versus Slackoth, a normal type that has Truant, which makes every other turn be skipped when you're doing specific things, it's pretty easy to say that Slackoth is significantly worse than Slowpoke. After doing the quiz, I got the Blue Bow. I knew that if I didn't say what I got, you would ask. Actually, now that I think about it, everyone asks anyway. Comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. At least, that's what I've heard. Anyway, after a little bit of modification, a little bit of changing, and going through the quiz, we get our Pokemon Torchic, kind of. It's technically Slackoth, but behind the scenes. We get our partner of Slowpoke. I decided to go with the name of Slacker here because it was fitting. It was named after the team, and I actually named the team Team Sleep, which you'll see a little bit later. I thought this would fit, especially since this is sort of like a Pokemon Sleep challenge, though having nothing to do with the Dream World or Pokemon Sleep or anything like that. So we jump into the adventure. It's going to be fun to see all the little animation changes and stuff like that as we go between these two Pokemon. I am going to be the Slackoth. Here is Slacker trying to get into a guild. Look at all this motivation that they have. This is going to be fun seeing Slowpoke and Slowpoke and Slackoth going through this journey with more energy than you will ever see any of these Pokemon have. But as you probably know about the story, and I've cut this down a little bit to try to condense the story as well, you know at this point Slowpoke is going to come down here, try to examine the beach, try to relax, and see us kind of fainted on the side of the road, basically, is what the best description is, while Coughing and Zubat take, I'm going to be honest, way too long of a time to get down the little mountain path and come over here. I mean, look at all this time that Slacker's been chilling, looking at the beach, having this conversation here, when Coughing and Zubat just kind of stared back and could have gone down. This could have taken a lot less time anyway. We name ourselves Ahdurin because, of course, that's my name here, by the way. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so. Plug. You know, how would that be? Anyway, name ourselves Ahdurin, get things okay. Slacker decides that we're cool folks, and here are some bad folks. Here's Zubat, here's Coughing, and they're going to take this and walk over to Beach Cave, which starts the beginning of this adventure. Now, as we enter into the cave right about here, the cave introduces and shows the different aspects of each of these Pokemon. So, I do a little modification here. I show the first floor of every single dungeon going forward and interesting facts. You'll see in the stats as well, we've got Scratch, which is the most powerful move in the history of mankind, because Scratch is an overpowered move. And you can see our stats here, attack 28. Special attack 23, but we have Truant. You can compare that with Slowpoke, a water psychic type with more reasonable stats. You see, the Slackoth line in general is extremely powerful, but we have this thing called pausing. This is what Truant is in this game. This prevents us from being able to take another move if we use any specific move or an orb. The regular A attack is perfectly fine. We can do that multiple times, but if we use a move or an orb, we have to pause for one turn. This means that our strategy is slightly different here as we transition over to the game. By the way, in case you haven't noticed already, on the top right hand of the screen, I've been putting flash warnings for this game because this game does have a lot of flashes compared to Blue Rescue Team. We get into this battle here pretty quick, pretty easy, and we jump straight into the Guildmaster's Guild while he prepares us and builds Team Sleep. Now, like I was saying, the different moves and abilities that we have changed the way that we had to play this run. Throwing items were going to be much more important, as well as making sure that we were able to one-hit KO everything we could, which in the early parts of this dungeon, the early part of the game in general, we could easily do. I mean, we were at least 10, if not more points higher in attack compared to everybody else, and our defensive stats are pretty high as well, meaning that even if we can take a hit, we'll be able to live past it perfectly fine. Drench Bluff goes by without any hitch as well. We find Spoink's Pearl and deliver it back to them. I show this because I wanted to see their eating animation, which is them walking. Sometimes you find fun ones. This one's pretty standard. We jump straight over to Mount Bristle for the third dungeon and the first boss battle at the end of this one. You can see here in the perfect example, Scratch doing massive amounts of damage. I mean, look at this Geodude here. We can scratch and do 32 points of damage to a Pokemon that resists the move. I mean, it's that good. Scratch is able to one-hit it KO everything at this point, which means it's pretty good. In fact, it's so good, we jump straight into the Drowsy battle here. After a little bit of preparation, it's really just me making sure that I scratch. I try to get my partner to use Growl or something like that. Doesn't seem to work. From here, we just sit back and wait. Scratch if we can, try to take advantage of the turns that we have. I think about going for Encore here, instead go for Yawn, without realizing that Yawn won't even work because Drowsy has an ability that prevents them from going to sleep. Right there, Insomnia. But despite all this, and despite the efforts of Drowsy, they aren't doing particularly well. I mean, the scratches that we do are so powerful, it's able to basically do half damage. A little bit of sentry duty here, you know how this goes. Getting more missions and rewards and stuff like that completed after that Drowsy fight, which was, again, remarkably simple. At this point in the challenge, I'm thinking this is smooth sailing. We jump over here to Waterfall Cave, which I wanted to show because this is pretty interesting as well. Just seeing the reactions here and the various different aspects. The Dimensional Scream takes effect, our special ability that allows us to see into the past or future if we touch something. Of course, we have to somewhat manually activate this by hoping and praying because it's not a thing that we can do all the time. Apparently there's a hidden cave behind this waterfall as well. I wanted to see what type of line they would use. There's two different lines that tend to be used here. The one I'm more famous for or favor is Be the Brave, Be the Bravest Ever, which I greatly enjoy. I think it's sort of a meme in my head at least, although I don't think it's a popular meme. And we go straight into Waterfall Cave. Another dungeon here and another opportunity to continue on our adventure. We, at this point, with the things that we're doing and the way that we're doing things, we don't have to prepare anything. No need to prepare Reviver Seeds, no need to prepare in general. And later on, we get through this dungeon without any issue, fly out of the geyser that's pushed by pushing the gem, and jump into the hot spring. Continuing on from here, relaxing, staying calm. Honestly, this is where Team Slacker should really be. They don't need to live at the guild, they just live at the hot spring, which would be a perfect place to relax, which is their end goal. I think they found their end goal. That's what they're wanting to explore, but anyway, moving on, we go over to Apple Woods now. Apple Woods, another dungeon with some interesting Pokemon here, but ultimately, again, pretty easy. I mean, we're level 11 right now, which is pretty helpful as well, both of us having over 50 health points, and we are just smooth sailing here. Partner's got Water Gun at this point, so now we've got type advantage moves. We jump over the floor 3 and we get Rock Slide. This just adds to our ability at this point. I decided to learn this move as well because we're deciding to be more of the physical attacker while our partner turns into a special attacker, and Rock Slide provides that type diversity that can help us later on down the line. Unfortunately, at the end of Apple Woods, the Team Skull, which you've seen their challenge before or you know who they are, they kind of disrupt our activities. So unfortunately, had to mess up and wait, recover for a couple of days. Then we move on to this part, the big expedition, as we're traveling over to the east, heading to Foggy Forest. Everybody separated into their own little groups. I love this part because Wigglytuff's like, I don't want to hang out with Chatot. That's fun. We hang out with Bidoof over here, who is a pretty hard attacker, though we got to make sure that they don't go off and consume many Reviver Seeds or stuff like that you bring. Ultimately, nothing much here as we jump in straight into a special dungeon situation here with Kecleon showing up, and I see smooth sailing here. I mean, Slowpoke's able to handle folks by themselves. Of course, we are, especially with the Scratch attack. And as long as Bidoof doesn't go roaming off by themselves, we're pretty solid. Getting through that first dungeon there, both of us decide to take a nap because that's what we do. And the next day, we head right on off to the next dungeon in this particular path here, crossing this specific mountain. We're making sure that our items are good. Again, I'm not really bothering when it comes to like preparing properly because we are that powerful. We're level 12, nearly 60 health points. I'm stacking up Reviver Seeds like it means anything, just because we can hold on to so many of them because we don't have to use them. We're that powerful. I mean, our entire storage facility, I think a third of it is probably Reviver Seeds or similar sort of items like that. And from here, we go into Mount Horn, the next dungeon. Again, not too much of a problem. We've got the water gun to help out. We attack the sticks, and we're pretty solid here. We jump over to floor 12, to an opponent that can cause them problems, Aerodactyl, showing up significantly earlier now than it did in the Blue Rescue Team game, especially considering our moves are not hitting him, but Doof is the one that's in charge. Slowpoke's able to succeed there, but a little bit later, another enemy that's going to be tough. Any Pokemon that can do spread move damages. Silverwind, a bug-type move, super effective on our partner Slackoth being part Psychic type, and fully knocks him out. First loss of the run. Kind of tough. We're able to go through on the second time without too much issue and jump straight into the forest here, Foggy Forest, as we prep for the exploration. But it feels like we've been here before, which is something interesting that we can look into. After a little bit of preparation, we jump straight into Foggy Forest. Walking on in, we get that feeling that maybe the keys to our memory are behind here, and we pick up this redstone. Now, I want to talk about this redstone for a bit while we go through Foggy Forest. How did no one else notice it? Is my real question. Like, everybody walks down that path to get to the Foggy Forest, and it's just sitting there. But none of them notice it except us, apparently. It's not even us, technically, it's the partner. But, like, how do they just walk past a red gem? You know what? Never mind. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, we get through Foggy Forest without any problem, and reach this section where the fog has clamped up dramatically. Corfish is showing off that there's this giant statue of a Pokemon here, which looks fascinating, and has some special ruins on the side here that can be read. I think it's in footprint ruins, right? If I'm not mistaken. Something that's our partner is able to read somehow. Apparently, this is the secret to the treasure of Fogbound Lake, which is the exploration area that we're looking for. Using the power of the dimensional screen here, we try to view the minds and the futures and the pasts to try to see if there's anything, and we get words, which isn't a lot. It doesn't really help. And on top of that, we get a second one immediately afterwards. Again, talking about some drought stone to put in Groudon's heart, whoever Groudon is. But putting two and two together, the fact that we found that stone way back when, kind of implies we're going to put that stone inside the statue. So, sure enough, there's a small hole inside the chest. Slacker puts the stone inside, and boom, shining light. Ready, game, set, match. Bright light, and the fog is cleared. Everything is calm, everything is cool. The sunlight's even harsh at this point, and as you look up, you see the eminence, the truly fog-bound lake. And we head up there ourselves, heading to Steam Cave, where there's a bunch of fire types. We bring Reviver Seeds because there is a boss battle at the end of this, and this is the first one that I'm actually thinking, maybe we need to try to make sure we don't immediately lose this. So, a little bit of preparation, get to the Steam Cave Peak. Now, there's a lot of flashes here, just a warning for that. But as we get to the top of the peak here, we get ready for a fight like no other, because something is coming. Meanwhile, the rest of the guild talks about this Groudon statue. They find it. It's pretty interesting. We headed up forward. Guildmaster is probably in between us right now, chasing after a perfect apple, because he's the goat, the Wiggly Goat. That's right, the Wiggly Goat. You know what else is the goat, as we talk about this situation here where Team Skull is kind of floating in the abyss and us fighting Groudon, is a little promotional thingy thing. You should check out Not a Scratch, a Pokemon Mystery Dungeon TTRPG actual play podcast that I host and run weekly. So you can check that out wherever you listen to podcasts. It's basically, what if you could be a Pokemon? It's a TTRPG like Dungeons and Dragons, except of course, you're the Pokemon and play through that Pokemon universe. A bunch of seasons are already out there. There are summary episodes as well. You can check that out whenever you feel like. Like right now, I'm just saying. You can go subscribe to that. Anyway, Groudon fight. This is big. This is a big deal. Big deal. Let's go. The Groudon fight insists it's going to be tough, and sure enough, it probably will be. The sun's going to make the water gun not as effective. We go for Curse for some reason. I'm not even sure why. We switch that back afterwards. And we're trying to make sure we can prepare, because the big thing is Groudon can hit us pretty hard, and if I'm skipping turns, it's not going to be ideal. We've got some different items here. We've got the Xi Seeds, we've got some throwables, we've got things like that. Exclusive move user is active, and we get started. So, first thing we want to do is look around and try to make sure we've got everything in hand. Go for Scratch. Big damage there. But we can't move. That's the big thing. I'm trying to do the math whenever I'm doing these sort of things. Does a Scratch do more damage than 2 regular A attacks? And then depending on that, I do different sort of things. We're taking a look. I'm literally doing the math here while I scroll back through the message log, trying to find what the right idea is. And I'm going to try to use as many orange berries as I can. The good thing about this game is Groudon gets confused and sort of walks off in a random direction here. The good thing about this game is that if you heal somebody, even if it's not you, you heal somebody else, that's your turn used, but not theirs. In Blue Rescue Team, if you were to heal up your partner, that would use technically your turn and your partner's turn. So it makes it significantly better. Continuing to use Gravel Rocks here, just trying to take that 20 points of damage. Using the Gravel Rocks as well nearby, you'd think you'd use Scratch, but then I'd pause for a second, and if they recover, that could cause a problem. From here, continuing throwing of the Gravel Rocks, trying to get Groudon to get closer to us. At this point, now that we're basically out, we go for the continuation of the Gravel Rocks, trying to get Slowpoke to do some confusion damage. Maybe it'll get you confused again. Go for a Scratch here, continuing to do some damage here. The step back there is an interesting tactic that Groudon has that can sometimes play to your advantage, though for us it's not really. We jump behind Groudon at this point according to the screen here, try to go for Yawn to make the Groudon fall asleep. We slow down a little bit, Groudon gets knocked out, and bam! That is the Groudon fight. A long one, a convoluted one that required us to step back a bit, but we get to see the treasure of Fogbound Lake, a time gear. A special thing. Volbeat and Illumise kind of jumping around the time gear as well. Right there. Something that makes our heart race. I wonder why. Later on, as we return back from the Exploration Guild expedition, that's what I'm thinking of, Meryl and Azurill, some friends of ours, talk about how their water float was kidnapped, which I'm not sure if that's how it works, but basically that's how it works. They kidnapped a water float, and as a result, it's in the Amp Plains, which is an electric dungeon that is, as it says, very tough for a Meryl and Azurill. In fact, we need to be prepared ready for this, and we're going to get prepared for it right now, basically. Getting into Amp Plains, wonder who that could be, because there aren't too many bad guys in this game as of yet. And we go to Amp Plains from here. Now, there's a little bit of difficulty, at least initially, we think about as Slacker levels up here. We've got to prepare for electric attacks, which can be pretty painful to Slacker, but able to get through the dungeon without too much difficulty, and we jump over to the Amp Clearing. Now, this is a big thing. This is actually the specific boss battle that I think I find the most difficult considering where you are in the story. Especially when I play, I generally play as a water type, which makes this that much more difficult. Sure enough, here we are, a bunch of Electrike and a Manectric that we've got to face off with one of us having a type disadvantage. But no way around it, we've got to fight, so sure enough, we try. Easiest thing to do is try to get the Manectric out of the way and then beat all the Electrics one by one. Now, each one of them have, I believe, 45 health, while the Manectric has somewhere in like the 150, 200 health range. So most of them can be knocked out by one good Confusion or one good Scratch. As long as we can survive it, we're pretty good. From here, we're just literally using the Scratches while we can. Our water guns are doing sizable damage as well, and we're just trying to get rid of all the little underlings, I guess is the best way to describe it, before taking on the actual big boss of Manectric. Sure enough, all is good here, and we've got some Iron Thorns that can help us for straight line throwables. And now it's just a matter of, trying to make sure that everything's lined up properly. We make sure that Manectric can charge at us rather than we charge at them. And from here, just kind of go for the moves that work. Scratch, knockout. Now, despite all this, Manectric still tries to fight us, only for Dusknoir to show up. He's been a good guy so far. That's totally not going to change at all, he says sarcastically. Dusknoir shows up, basically saying that these guys are all good. You don't have to worry about them. We're just grabbing that water float over there. And they walk right past the water float and run away. Apparently they live in this area and they find it pretty good, but people are constantly coming and invading their territory. So now they go, attack first, ask questions later type of thing. How did the water float end up there? Well, we only have one bad guy so far, and that's, sure enough, these folks. Team Skull, a group that's so devious, they infiltrated one of my challenge videos, which you can check out. It's an older challenge video in this very game, somewhere up on the cards or in the playlist or in the challenge playthrough. Later on, we find out more information about the time gears itself and a Pokemon named Grovyle who's stealing them, and we get sent to the Northern Desert, our next dungeon that we have to head to. The dry terrain there makes it possible that a time gear could be located there. So, sure enough, we head out to the Northern Desert. Now, you can see here, we're starting to get to the point where the Scratches are doing sizable damage in the 70s, but you can see that barely knocked out the Sandshrew. Our Scratches are no longer one-hit KOing everybody, which can be tough, because if we can't one-hit KO anybody, then we're kind of just stuck there, which means that we have to make sure that we prepare very carefully. I got to make sure that my partner is able to do significant damage. Putting us in corridors or hallways is going to be incredibly difficult as well. So we've got to make sure we attack in rooms, make sure that the partner is able to come and assist us, because if they can't, and it's a one-on-one fight, that does not benefit the person that skips every other turn. I showed this specific scene, so we head back, and we're going to head back to the dungeon a little bit later. I buy Psychic. I buy Psychic for my partner. Now, I believe they learned Psychic, but they learned Psychic well deep into the run, like levels 40s plus, and spoiler alert, we don't reach the 40s. So we would forget Curse and learn Psychic instead, which is going to be significantly better for our partner because they'll have Stab, very powerful Psychic type move in Psychic. Very good. So after a little bit of preparation here, we get that done. The Psychic, we bring some Reviver Seeds and all that fun stuff, and we jump into the Quicksand. After a reminder of this waterfall incident, we jump in. Come on, we're going to jump in. 1, 2, 3, bang. Have you noticed these Pokemon are moving around more than any other Pokemon that are Slackoths or Slowpokes ever? Which is hilarious. It's Team Slacker, or Team Sleep in this case, that is wide awake all the time. Anyway, first floor here, you can see the Sand Slash that's staring us down as I apparently am working on something else for some reason. Our levels right now are in the 20s right now, our health about in 70-ish range. And the Scratch right there, not able to do one-hit KOs. Meaning, if we are in a situation where my partner and I both move and the opponent is still alive, that can cause some issues. Underneath the ground, there's a giant lake and a glowing green light that looks like a time gear, only for a Pokemon to show up, the guardian of this time gear. Just like Uxie was guarding one, this is Mesprit guarding one, and we've got to fight Mesprit off. Now, I've got Feint Attack at this point, which is a super effective move. I've also got a situation where we use Stab normal type moves. We've got Reviver Seeds. We've got everything pretty much laid out. So we take a sharp step to the... Oh, we throw the Gravel Rock. I forgot about that. We throw the Gravel Rock to bring them to us. From here, Feint Attacks. Try to see if that does the damage that it can. Now, I'm comparing this with double Gravel Rocks, or double throwables in general, to see where this helps out. Gravel Rocks, 2 of them, do about as much as a Feint Attack, but it keeps us moving, so I prefer to use that. Also, Feint Attack here is good, and it's pretty much over. It's a pretty quick fight, especially with super effective moves and us being very powerful, and Grovyle shows up. And Grovyle just literally pushes us away, and pushes Mesprit away. No problem at all. Grovyle just kind of waltzes into the water after pushing us away again, waltzes into the water, grabs the time gear, walks away. We start panicking because another time gear is gone. It's that not ideal stuff. This scene, by the way, this little crackling effect impressed the heck out of me when I was 10 years old. It was very, very cool. Later on, we determined that based on the various dungeons that we went to, Crystal Cave is another dungeon that looks like it probably has a time gear. So we go ahead into that after using our Dimensional Scream effect on Bidoof Crystal, learning that Crystal Cave indeed does have a time gear, and we jump straight into that. A little bit later on the 5th floor, in fact, there's this Cranidos that wants to join the team. This isn't the interesting thing as they head on back. Later on this floor, though, as we do a little bit more movement, it turns out we find ourselves in a pretty sticky situation here. With multiple Cranidoses, we don't have a lot of great throwables, and the Assurance knocks out our partner. Not ideal. But able to go through a second time without any issue, and we find these giant crystals. This is the entrance to Crystal Crossing, in fact, and it's its own separate puzzle, similar to how there was the Quicksand pits and the Groudon statue. This is its own puzzle. Touching the crystals apparently changes the colors, and we need to change the color to a color that is the right one, whatever that would mean. Now, by doing this, we accidentally invoke the Dimensional Scream, which provides us a vision of this voice again that seems to be talking to us. It sounds familiar, but I don't know why. Anyway, another thing that they mentioned there is how the voice is this only happens when it comes to these time gear situations, but, there was a voice for the Azurill thing, but there was a scene immediately afterwards. Anyway, I thought that was an interesting thing that occurred there. A little bit of preparation and making sure that everything is all good and dandy. Save the game, and we're going to change the colors to the colors of not Mesprit, not Uxie, but Azelf. And bam, a giant crystal appears out of nowhere with a pathway inside that somehow leads underground, and we head to the Crystal Crossing. Pokemon here are significantly more powerful at this point. We're seeing Floatzel's and Pokemon that are just fully able to do significant amounts of damage. Here's a Feint Attack, there's a Tackle, they're still alive. This is the sort of situation that's a problem because I've moved and can't move the second time. In fact, if we go later on to the 7th floor here, it's a situation where Fury Swipes, everyone loves this move, Fury Swipes, basically ruins us here. Not yet. You'll see. Wait for it. Wait for it. It'll come shortly. As we're preparing, we're thinking everything is all good. There's Wormadams around us. There's a Bagon showing up. Scratch doesn't even work. And if a move misses, that's terrible. Because not only did it not work on that turn, I'm skipping the next turn anyway, which makes things that much harder. Slack Off is a move that heals HP, but despite all of this and the confusion effect and the pause, we try to Slack Off again. I'm stalling at this point. Wormadam regains power points and all that, which is very exciting, but eventually, I do say eventually, even Slowpoke taking hits from us, Bagon joining the team, and all of that, That thing I was talking about at the very beginning, the Fury Swiping Glameow, yeah, Glameow's going to take us out again. A Fake Out, first off, does massive amounts of damage because it's like a quick attack where it's able to jump multiple spots. Even despite healing, the Scratch knocks out the partner who stepped up, and we got to try again. Second run through goes remarkably easier. We get to Crystal Lake, where, sure enough, it's a lake underneath the crystals, which is very fun. There's a green light spot there, like a time gear, and it looks like there's somebody there. Well, let's take a look. What exactly is there? Oh, look, it's Grovyle. It's Azelf. This is what you saw in the vision, so it's a future vision, and we need to help. Now, Azelf is one step ahead, prepares little crystals to prevent the time cure from being stolen, and Grovyle decides to fight us. Fun fact, we can just give up, literally. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. You keep the items that you do, and because it's a scripted loss anyway, so we get this done. Time gear for the win, except Dusknoir shows up to save the day. Yay, I'm glad Dusknoir is on our side, he says, with a dumb smile on his face. And after Grovyle disappears, Dusknoir disappears as well, and we faint. In fact, we faint so hard that I'm just going to skip the next couple of scenes, and we jump straight into the future. That's right, we've gone into the future. To sum up the previous hour of gameplay that is missing from this particular video, we find out that Dusknoir is actually a bad guy and brought us into the future because they captured Grovyle, and apparently we're a bigger threat than we thought. Most of that is actually explained in the future. In fact, we're going to find out right now. Here's a bunch of Sableye that were assisting Dusknoir. They blindfold us, bring us with them, and send us to this area. Gotta love it. So this is where you're tied up normally, and with the regular starter Pokemons, you're tied up without any issue, like Grovyle here. But with a Pokemon that isn't a normal starter, like the Slackoth and Slowpokes, they instead have to do their walking animation, or their moving animation, I guess. Which is very fun, because it sort of implies that Slowpoke was tied up with like only one foot, and the rest of it is kind of just dangling in the front. Sort of same thing with Slackoth here. And then meanwhile, Grovyle is like the actual one that's properly tied up. So like, look, it's like one arm, depending on which way that you're looking, or one leg that's actually in a predicament here, which is very funny. Anyway, Sableye are going to attack us with Fury Swipes. They're coming at us, so we need to attack at the right time. Apparently, they're going to attack our one leg, and then Grovyle actually permanently, so there's a little gap right there. They're actually hitting us at this point, but somehow we're just avoiding all of that damage. We use a Luminous Orb. Bright light shines away. Sableye and Dusknoir start heading out while we come out from underneath the ground, as that's where we were actually hiding, with the Dig move that Grovyle has. I'm very glad that Grovyle actually has Dig on their moveset as opposed to not having Dig. Anyway, we split up a little bit later because our partners doesn't trust Grovyle, which I don't quite understand since Dusknoir is clearly not to be trusted anymore. And we head into this area, Chasm Cave. Very quick, pretty easy, straight to the point. We get to Dark Hill, another dungeon that's pretty straightforward, pretty easy, straight to the point. A lot of ghost types that we have to deal with, which is a problem for our partner here if they use any ghost type moves. Luckily, at least, they don't use powerful enough moves, as that Shadow Sneak almost knocked us out. Dark Hill's easy. We go into Sealed Ruins, which has just a bunch of various Pokemon, and just zoom straight through that. Now we move to a interesting situation. At the pit of the dungeon, we see a Pokemon right here, that little rock right there that transforms into Spiritomb, a Pokemon that can quickly defeat our partner here, Slacker, because it's part Ghost type and part Dark type, and ultimately not a great thing for us in general. While the Ghost type moves won't do a lot to us specifically, it can be a problem. You can see our new movesets, by the way. We've got a little bit more stuff that's set up here, but despite all that and all the Reviver Seeds and all the preparation here, a single Ominous Wind can really do a lot of damage, as you can see right there. In fact, multiple Ominous Winds can knock out a Pokemon, as it did right there. We just kind of have to hope and pray that they came to us, which they did. They didn't just spam Ominous Wind. And from here, now we just have to try to do our best to attack before the special attacking, boosting, Ominous Wind attacking, full damage move thingy things do their thing, basically. Fan attack here, sizable damage. Water gun, sizable damage. The Sealed Ruin Pit music right here is fantastic. It's a real, booming type of piece. And I mentioned that because I would recommend you listen to the Explorers of Sky OST because it's that good. Anyway, after beating Spiritomb, they run away. Grovyle explains that they aren't, a bad Pokemon. They're just a frightened Pokemon, and that's how they retaliate by attacking us. And we, after a little bit of discussion, conversation, and confusion, decide after some time to hang out with Grovyle. So we head to Dusk Forest and look for a Pokemon named Celebi. Celebi, a time-traveling Pokemon that sent Grovyle to the past last time, is going to try to do that again this time. Now, Grovyle's a fantastic Pokemon to have with you. I personally think so. They tend not to absorb Reviver Seeds like Bidoof does, or a post-game Pokemon, Cresselia. If you know, you know. And as we get through this, we eventually find Celebi right here. It's a shiny Celebi. That's what I wonder. When they pop into the universe, is that the shiny like activation there, or is it just the normal Celebi sort of thing? Curiosity. Anyway, all of us four are going to head deeper into the forest itself as we get to the passage of time, allowing us to go back to our normal time. And, well, technically, all of us to our normal time. So, from here, we continue to Deep Dusk Forest. We've got a full team of four. All four of us are very powerful. And, fun fact, Celebi's Heal Bell, which will activate pretty soon, it actually has the ability to really help us out. It can heal not only our status conditions and all that, but actually it can actually heal our paws, which is a fascinating little thing that it's a nice little interesting bonus there that I don't think applies too much in the games, but it can certainly looks cool at the very least because it heals those status conditions as well. Yeah, and we get through the dungeon without really any issue. It's pretty straightforward, calm, cool, and collected as we get through and reach this area. This is the passage of time. It's all good. It's all dandy. It's all fun, except Dusknoir's here, which isn't great. And now we fully know that Dusknoir's a bad guy, which isn't great either. The Sableye here as well, but it's a 4-on-7. We could probably have a shot here. Type advantages and all that. Oh wait, no. It's not just a 4-on-7. It's a 4-on-8 because Dialga's here. Primal Dialga, the fully angry, frustrated darkness version of Dialga. Grovyle's given up. Celebi's basically given up. I have no idea what's going on. Slacker's trying to motivate everybody. Grovyle is talking about this partner that he's got, whose name is Ahdurin and was a human like us, and was really cool like us, and had a YouTube channel like us. And it turns out that's us, actually. That's not ideal. We have a little flashback sequence there that I don't actually show off, and leading to this situation here. Dusknoir thinking that this is a perfect situation where we are kind of done for Slacker, trying to add some motivation, some hope. Celebi can time travel us a little bit, which could potentially work. And I like this little thing that I did in the editing where I cut it so that it looks like almost Celebi just, type of thing. I don't know if that snap even heard. Anyway, Dialga breaks the time travel barrier right there and gets us just short. We decide to dive on in, literally dive in to that, and then another cut later, boom, disappeared. Now, we have to go find the time gears all over again. The first one we go to is the one that Grovyle found first, the only one that does not have an actual guardian, which is Tree Shroud Forest. In fact, you see in the main storyline of the game 4 of the 5 different time gears. The 5th one you can see in a special episode, which is very, very fun. We know about the ones that are guarded by Azelf, Mesrid, and Yuxi. This one is unguarded, and there's a 5th one, which I unfortunately can't remember the dungeon name, but is guarded by a Ditto, which is very fun. And it's got different mysteries and riddles and tricks, which you can check out in the Team Charm special episode, which I think is the 4th one. The time gear, despite being here, hasn't worked. It seems like the time is still stuck in place. Nothing's dropping, no leaves are moving, nothing like that. We decide to learn more information about our situation here and find out that things are problematic. We head back to the guild, recover, realize that everything is going well, and meet up with Torkoal here to learn about the hidden land, a specific place that we need to find because that's where Temporal Tower is. Torkoal has a little bit of information about it, that there's some sort of proof that a specific person needs to have to allow them access to Temporal Tower. But what that proof is, Torkoal doesn't realize at this particular day. The next day, however, Torkoal comes back and meets up with us to realize that the proof has some weird pattern on it. It's an odd sort of thing. You look at it, and you're just thinking that it's odd and weird and intriguing and unique, kind of like this thing that he talks about is interesting and strange and unique. Sure enough, the relic fragment, by the graces of plot gods, have graced upon us, our partner, a relic fragment that's the exact same thing that we need to solve this mystery that wasn't even a thing at that point in time. You know how it is. Basically, plot be plot, and it turns out we're the chosen ones, because, yay, we've decided that the people that can save the day are not some sort of legendary beasts themselves or like really powerful Pokemon. No. We're going to go with a team that is dedicated on exploring the least amount of things possible. And Chatot, the songbird, is going to join us for this particular adventure. Because why not? We jump into Brine Cave. Chatot's an interesting Pokemon as well. It's pretty powerful if you can play it in the right spots, but if you don't, then it's kind of stuck. Also, you can see at this point where the real difficulty comes with this run. Now we're getting to the tough parts here. Our moves aren't particularly good. We're not great when it comes to type advantages, being a normal type with a couple of different types of moves, but it's, the big one is the normal moves that we've got. And as such, it makes this slightly more complicated of a run. Sure enough, with a boss battle with all 3 Pokemon being part Rock type, That does not help me either. And our partner being a water type means that all of them are going to get partially resisted by that as well. Battle begins. Shadow apparently disappears into the abyss, and we need to prepare carefully for this boss fight. We go for the full moves, the water pulses, the psychics. I'm sitting here with my own movesets of rock slides and feint attacks that I'm going to be preparing. The Aqua Jet does massive damage there. Almastars are significantly weaker when it comes to health compared to the Kabutops. And we decide to just split it off from there, trying to make sure that all of us can hit as many folks as we can. Psychics do massive damage here. We're just trying to make sure that we can knock out all of the extra foes. That tends to be the strategy, knock out more people so that there's less people that can attack you. And we're successful in our first attempt. We get this little scene here where Grovyle is showing up with Wigglytuff and the rest of the guild as we separate into two different groups. Kabutops and Chatot Chatot, Wigglytuff, and the guild head back to the guild while us three continue forward as we head to the Hidden Land, presumably. Wigglytuff seemed to have been looking for Grovyle to bring him along board, and now we are here. This is the entrance to the Hidden Land. In fact, that thing on the back right there that I'm looking at is the pattern on the relic fragment. So, putting that down shines a bright light into the distance, a sort of calling, a signal to a Pokemon that's out in the abyss and comes closer. It's a Lapras, who knows about us and also knows Wigglytuff, because Wigglytuff seems to know everything. And Lapras is the guardian, the key to the Hidden Land. Now we travel a little bit, head over to the Hidden Land, and I decided, my infinite wisdom, because it's a thing that you can do, to immediately turn right around, heal up, get some IQ skills, all that fun stuff, and then come back to proceed forward. I didn't show that because it wasn't that necessary. Now the Hidden Land is tough. Grovyle is probably the only Pokemon on this team that can actually do stuff against most of the foes with one hit, without type advantages. Magmortars suck. That's my brilliant analysis there. Magmortars are not fun. They are very tough for us. I don't know why. It's not like it's a big damage dealing thing, but they were terrible. A little bit later on, we get to this area, the Old Ruins, and the temple of the Old Ruins itself, with a little indentation there and a plaque, a tablet of some sort, written in an unknown language, quite literally, the language of the unknown that Grovyle is able to read. It turns out that stone, the relic fragment, should be placed right there. Unless Dusknoir shows up, in which case they interrupt us, and it's time for us to go back to the future. Yay, you gotta love that film series. And after a little bit of contemplation, a little bit of anger, we punch back, and now it's the boss fight. This is probably the second most difficult boss fight, if I had to guess, because of the sheer number of Sableye in conjunction with Dusknoir being a Dusknoir. Now, strategy normally is make Dusknoir not do anything, followed by everybody else doing stuff. Only thing is, the Sleep Seed seems to have not hit its target, making this significantly harder. Slackoth right now just kind of being a guy. The moves aren't going to help too much, and since we can only hit moves every other turn, we're kind of just sitting around like ducks while everybody else is trying to do actual damage here. In fact, this first attempt goes pretty rough. Multiple misses there. Absorb kind of helping, but Dusknoir with Pursuit and the Sableye throwing all sorts of punishments and throwing knockoffs, throwing items around and everything like that. I can knock out, one Pokemon after 2 attempts. That 81 damage from that Leaf Blade hitting right back. The punishment's doing sizable damage, burning through the Reviver Seeds that we have. And at this point in the run, we didn't have, an infinite number of Reviver Seeds. We had enough, but certainly not enough for this particular situation. In fact, as we try our hardest here, protect War off and everything like that, but the sheer number of Sableye knock us out too many times. And with the type advantages that they have as well, Slowpoke trying to be some sort of guardian here for us, which is part of their IQ skills, leads to us getting into this situation. In fact, it changes our strategy in general. I go for Brine. I, in fact, teach this to Slowpoke because I think this will be helpful for the boss battles. Any Pokemon with a significantly higher level of health, like Dusknoir, like Dialga, we can take advantage of the fact that the moves do more damage when you're below half health. So, let's try number 2 here. The Sableyes are here, the Dusknoir is there, we have to prepare. I've got a little bit of a different situation here, trying to go for Water Pulse there to make sure that the distance attacks can do distance things, and I've decided to throw the only thing that I can really throw at this point, which is to say, the Iron Thorn. Not much, but it's something. Water Pulse misses, the Grovyle hits with the Quick Attack, maybe? I don't even know if that hit. And our strategy seems to be a little bit more complicated here, but we've always got a plan in place, which is to say more Iron Thorns, and preparing, knocking out Pokemon one at a time, avoiding Dusknoir when the Pursuit's up, making sure that the Sableye in general do not target Slowpoke, because Slowpoke will burn through the Reviver Seeds like no one's business. We need to make sure that Slowpoke stays alive because they are the ones that are absorbing all of the damage that we get because of their IQ skill. The knockoff kind of hurts there. using up one Reviver Seed at that point as I'm trying to make sure we prepare properly here. Fan Attack knocks out another Sableye, the Water Pulse doing big damage there. Grovyle doing sizable damage as well. Leaf Blade feels like it's always going to be a knockout, which is very good. Goes for Dig, which kind of avoids one of the attacks there. Mean Look gets you pretty much stuck, but despite all that, we try to go for the Orange Berry there to heal up Slacker. Slacker doing sizable damage. Even if they're stuck, they're still able to knock out a lot of Pokemon. We switch on the Brine at this point, making sure that it does a lot of damage, because the counters and all only do damage if you're physically attacking, and that's our special attacker that's doing a lot of stuff right there. We get the Burn, which isn't ideal. The Brine doing more damage. Quick Attack, almost there. I'm making sure I'm healing up Slowpoke. Remember, if I use a berry, it doesn't affect their moveset. And we're able to win. But at the cost of Grovyle, who sacrifices himself in the process by pushing Dusknoir into the dimensional hole along with himself, meaning it's just us two. Us two versus Dialga. A final battle like no others. Slowpoke, slack off. The least energetic Pokemon in the history of mankind, dealing with a discharge, which Porygon in general is just annoying in this dungeon. But these two Pokemon that seem to not want to do anything are deciding to be the ones to save the world. Can they do it on their first attempt? Well, after this little pretty interesting situation here, with I think there are like 4 Bronzongs that are charging after us, Slowpoke learns Zen Headbutt, which is a very interesting move here. It can cause cringe, and it's better than regular Headbutt, in my personal opinion, because it's stab. And you can see here, I'm just making sure I'm throwing Iron Thorns to make sure there are no enemies that are showing up, because we don't want to be surprised. That's how the strategy works. If you're stuck in a hallway, you're doomed. So, after a little bit of preparation here, a little bit of moving around, this is a little bit of the effort that Zen Headbutt can do, which is, getting that cringe, making sure that we skip the next person's turn, using the strategies that Truant has against them through various other methods, like cringing and stuff. Using a Reviver Seed in the process, but frankly, we're stuck in a situation where we've just got to fight as hard as we can, going up against these Bronzongs, who are annoying. Bronzong, a Pokemon that, as of this point, not quickly up that list. It's pretty low down this list of Pokemon that I enjoy. Finding the Iron Thorns there, and we get to the top. Temporal Pinnacle, the top of the tower here, where the Time Gears is supposed to go. The tower looks like it's going to break down. There's where the Time Gears is supposed to go, so let's plop them in, and we can save the day. There's no boss here. Oh wait, Lightning Bolt strikes because Dialga's Thor somehow shows up and is partially confused. They're still Dialga, but they're not Primal Dialga yet, so there's a chance to win. All you have to do is fight them. Now, Dialga, with the fantastic music behind us, can use a powerful move, Roar of Time, which, is a full damage, type of move that just wipes the room and everything like that. And we only have 4 Reviver Seeds because we ran out of the rest. So, my strategy, as the head person that can't really do much of anything, I'm going to be the assist guy, throwing the Vile Seed, making sure that their defenses are low. They are very low at this point. We go Violent Seed to boost our own attacks, doing a lot of damage. Dragon Claw does a lot of damage there. It's regular attack and still does more than 1.5 times, I think, our actual health here. Go for more Sleep Seeds. Go for Stun Seeds. Trying to use Gravel Rocks. I don't want to actually use a move myself, because if I do, I'm stuck for a turn. Unless desperate times call for desperate measures. Iron Thorns, we've got them. We got Gravel Rocks. We're trying to use all of those. Dragon Claw doesn't knock us out. It almost does, but it doesn't. So you go back to sleep. Confusion helps there. Water Pulses some more. We're in a situation now where we can really do this if we just build our strategy right. Brian there doesn't do anything. Roar of Time knocks us both out, which is rough because now we're running low. We've only got 1 Reviver Seed remaining at this point. We've got a situation here. Throw the XI Seed to try to get you confused. The Brian here knocks out Dialga, and we are successful. But can we still save the day? We need to use the one thing that Slowpoke has to do. Speed. The thing that they are known for. Rushes up, grabs the Time Gear, plops them on in. Are we too late? Things are still breaking down as we fall apart, falling down to the stairs there. Is it over? Are we done? That's it. It's done. And we succeed. A Slowpoke and a Slackoth. 2 Pokemon that are designed and built to just not do anything. Succeeded in saving time itself. Time stopping feels like the dream for a Slowpoke and a Slackoth, but we were smarter. We knew that deep down, relaxing only works if there is time to be wasted. And if time wasn't under control, then how could you waste time properly? How could you be truly Team Slacker? And in fact, we've ascended at this point. It's time. We've done too much energy. I myself have done too much. Slacker, I apologize, but unfortunately, I've done too much energy for a Slackoth. I must leave. My planet needs me. Use the Simpson quote here. ending this particular challenge here as we disappear off the face of the earth, having extended too much energy in the power and the joy of saving the world. This is why Slackoth doesn't do a lot, because totally true, absolutely real. Check the Pokedex entry. I'm lying right now, but you know the gist. In the Pokedex entry, it says if they use too much energy, they disappear into a ball of light. So, it's just facts. I'm just saying, as we get farther and farther away, Slacker, the only remaining survivor of this journey to save time itself, Grovyle, sent back to the future, us, using so much energy that we kind of just turned into a ball of light and disappeared. And only one left, Slacker, the Remainer. This is why the name of the team is Team Slacker. It's to honor this team and the remaining survivor. That's what I'm going with. A few months later, because this is a few months later, it is not a couple hours later like Blue Rescue Team or a brief amount of time later. They say many months later, which means Slowpoke, Slacker, whoever your partner is, has been dealing with this for months and still struggling, which makes sense. You were, ride or die with your fella, and then they actually go off and disappear in a ball of light, so not ideal. But, coming back here, first time the beach have bubbles, same thing. It reminds him of all of these previous events that I don't actually show here. And that kind of makes them crack at this point. Bidoof kind of consoling them as Slacker fades off into the abyss. And that was this challenge in a nutshell. Team Slacker saves the day, beating the game with a Slowpoke and a Slackoth. I do not know how this turned out because I one-shotted this entire script because that's how I've been doing things. It's very exciting, very fun, very cool. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening, watching, and supporting. Recommendation about this challenge. Would I recommend it? I think it's interesting to play with a Slackoth in general. Having Truant as an ability feels almost like it's better in this game than it is in the other games because you get all the stat boosts, and that helps you immensely in the early parts of the games. And then Truant isn't so damaging that it basically makes you impossible to use like it does in the main series with, Slackoth and Slacking. It's an interesting thing. Would I recommend this challenge to you if you wanted to play it? Sure, absolutely. Go ahead and use various Explorers of Sky methods to change your partner, change your starter, and proceed from there. The epilogue theme comes up here as we are about to head back into reality at this point. Dialga and an extra power allows them to save us, and we head back down to continue our adventure, in the post game and all that sort of stuff. That's the end of this challenge. Thank you, everyone, for listening, watching, and supporting in any way, shape, or form that you do. And until next time, take care.